Hi there. As you know, antinatalism is one of the pillars of the Church of Nowhere, if indeed it had any pillars or had anything to support with those pillars. And antinatalism may seem to you like a complete pipe dream, but in actual fact, in December 2019, for the UK general election, antinatalism could actually become one of the points on which the election is fought. And I say that because there's going to be two bandwagons, political bandwagons, which pretty much all the parties are going to have to get on in order to attract you to vote for them, either because you want them to take Britain out of the EU, or you want Britain to remain in the EU. And these two issues are anti-austerity and reducing carbon emissions. And a very, very interesting thing has actually just happened. Chrysler, that is a massive US car building industry manufacturer, and Fiat have agreed to merge. So we're having Chrysler and Fiat. Now, this is very, very significant because I think Chrysler are pretty much certain that Brexit's going to happen. And Fiat and Chrysler want to be able to produce the first cheap electric car, okay? And the thing about this is they're looking for markets, right? And Chrysler are thinking to themselves, if Donald Trump can do a deal with Britain, so that Britain imports these cheap Chrysler electric cars that have been partly built in Italy as well, and possibly shipped from Italy, in fact, then Britain can actually have a zero tariff on those cheap electric cars. And this will do Britain well. This will say, it depends who does it, but if it's Donald Trump and Johnson, Donald Trump can actually turn around and say, well, look, I'm helping Chrysler not only to create more jobs in the USA, but I'm helping them to create the first cheap electric car. So I'm concerned about the environment as much as anybody else, you see. So who's green now, eh? And Johnson can also say that if you vote Conservative, you're voting for the Green Party, the true Green Party of the UK. Because Britain will be free to do deals with countries around the world, all of whom, including the USA, of course, and all of whom are intent on creating the first electric car, the first cheap electric car, right? And so Chrysler could be looking to oust Ford and everybody else, actually, as being the first. Remember, in business, you've got to remember the first law of business is to be first, okay? So if you can be the first manufacturer to sell an electric car at the same competitive price as a petrol car, then you're going to make millions and millions and millions, because everybody is going to want to buy your car, because of course everywhere in the world they're going to actually tax petrol cars off the road, starting perhaps with Britain and going on to the EU countries, and even the USA. So be prepared for that. Be prepared for basically a sort of income tax. Well, it'll be a sort of petrol tax, the like of which you've never seen before. And although it probably won't apply to freight, it'll definitely apply to private cars. And the idea basically is to make you change to an electric car. And not only that, but Johnson is likely to say, because we've managed the finances of the country so well, we can actually afford to subsidise people when buying an electric car and getting rid of their petrol car, scrapping it, in other words. We'll help with the cost of scrapping it, or, waive other costs about scrapping it. So, we Tories are going to be the Green Party of Britain. Not only that, but the Tories are also going to go very much for anti-natalist, not for anti-natalist, they're going to go for anti-austerity measures. We'll come on to antinatalism in a minute. they're going to come. They're going to be very into anti-austerity. A lot of money is going to be put into the NHS, you see, which was promised as a result of leaving the European Union. So that's one thing they've got to do, really. And this is all to get your vote. Basically, if you're in any sense a Brexiter, then obviously the Tories are after your vote. And of course, if you're Labour Party have a very interesting package. I did sort of say that Labour Party may be doomed, but in actual fact, they may be the outsider horse, which comes in and takes over from the leading horse, which is the Tories at the moment. And the Tories may be sitting on their backsides and just thinking they've won this election. But hold on a minute, because the Labour Party is a very interesting package. Because they're offering what they would probably market as the best Brexit choice, the BBC, using the BBC, which is, of course, the British Broadcasting Corporation, right? And they'll use the BBC to market their policy, which basically is a soft Brexit. I mean, Britain will be coming out of all political alignment with the Union, with the European Union, so no joining the European army and none of that nonsense. But having belonging to the customs union, which will sort out the problem with Northern Ireland and its border with Southern Ireland, right? So basically, they're offering that soft Brexit, as people have called it, but Brexit nonetheless. I mean, don't forget, it is Brexit. It is coming out of all political ties with the European Union. But it's a soft enough Brexit to keep people happy about lessening the economic impact of Brexit. So they're going to be looking for the Brexit vote as well. But they've also put in a little thing in their manifesto that they will also hold another referendum, and that gives the Remainers the chance to vote against Brexit for another time. So they hope to get both Brexiters and Remainers voting for them in the next general election, which is pretty smart marketing, actually, to get lots of people that don't like each other to vote for you. So again, Labour's already offering a massive anti-austerity package, but they're also going to have to offer a proper climate change, carbon footprint reduction measures as well, which in fact they already have, actually. So you can see that the two biggest parties in the UK election are wanting to put anti-austerity and reducing carbon footprint as the main focus of their election manifestos, besides or as well as the Brexit, offering various shades of Brexit. And if you compare that with the Lib Dems, that are not going to offer anybody any choice on Brexit, they're just going to revoke Article 50, which means Britain will stay in the EU, whatever. They're living in cloud cuckoo land if they think they can get all the Remainer votes on that basis. But we shall see about that. But this is, anyway, a good time for antinatalist legislation to go forth, to be put on. And basically, because the thing about antinatalism is the best way to get people to stop having babies is to make it uneconomic to do so, which basically means that you have to increase income tax on people who have just got married and are planning to have children. So you want to encourage them not to have children, you see. So you're not going to tax couples that already have children, but you're certainly going to tax people that that want to have children. Quite how you're going to find out how they're going to have children, I don't know. But you've got all the people coming up who are going to have babies are going to have to pay more tax. So there's a lot. You don't need much legislation on antinatalism. You just need an adjustment to tax legislation. And that's going to be pretty much the simplest way of reducing population. In fact, just through taxation measures. And the other way is putting VAT, increasing VAT on baby clothes and prams and things like that. Again, people that have already got children will be able to get tax rebates on that It's only the people that are planning to have children would face a new hefty VAT bill, VAT added onto their purchases for their newborns. You see, so there's a raft of clever legislation you can bring out to limit population, and as well as obviously increasing education and availability of contraception, etc., etc. And the rest of it, of course, is all cultural changes, of course, and educating immigrant cultures as well on the fact that limiting population is not totally anti-religious. Actually, I mean there is a case to be made, for restricting family size, and as well as economic benefits. So you can do a lot. So antinatalism could be definitely put on the agenda of the election, forthcoming British election, 2019. But definitely anti-austerity measures are going to be on the agenda, and very significantly, I think, the green politics and reducing carbon footprint. And with Chrysler merging with Fiat, this is a very, very interesting development. Corporations, they also know that unless you adapt, you die. And then they've already seen the situation that there's possibility, of having a huge UK market for Chrysler cars, electric cars, cheap electric cars, that would be partly built or mostly built in Italy. So that would give more jobs to the Italians, you see. And even though they're in the EU, because the Fiat to be owned by Chrysler that will be outside the EU, and Britain will be outside the EU, you can see that this massive corporation is thinking ahead and thinking very, very smartly indeed. And of course, Donald Trump will love it, because if there are going to be more jobs for Chrysler in the USA, then he's going to come out smelling of roses from all this as well. So you can see that Brexit is really to the advantage of the USA, and even Italy now, and definitely BMW, for example, which is a German-based corporation. They're going to be hopping mad over this merger, and they're going to have to think what they're going to do. I would suggest to them that they bring factories over to the UK, and start looking, if they can, if the EU will permit it, looking to find markets for electric cars in the UK. But certainly, or go to another non-EU country, go out of Germany, go to a non-EU country, and then start selling electric cars through that country to the UK that will be able to do deals outside the EU, if you see what I mean. So basically, electric cars are really going to start shaping the way that corporations behave, the way that governments behave, and the race is on, the gold rush is on for the cheap electric car, which of course has to and will replace the car that's fueled by petrochemicals.